Something a bit different today, guys. If you saw my recent golf lesson with Brent Dale, you'll know that he recommended I seek out this golf-specific physio that he's worked with, a guy that's working with loads of tour players, been to the Masters, the Open and everywhere else. Well, I've managed to find him. I'm at his home training centre. I have a golf-specific assessment, see what he makes of me, see what he recommends. Hope you enjoy it. I've managed to track him down. This is Matt Green, golf-specific physio.
Mate, how are you?
Really good.
That's good.
My coach has spoken to Matt and passed on his feedback, but there'll be a lot of people, a little bit like myself, that are watching the video that don't know exactly how the golf-specific physio fits in with the golfer and the golf coach. And I thought, with the session that we've got coming up and with that in mind, maybe you could lay out how that works and what we'll do today.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess obviously when you have a golf lesson or when you're trying to swing a golf club, your body needs to be able to do certain things, okay? And Brent needs you to move a certain way or wants you to move a certain way, which is going to help you play better, but also protect you from injury. So what my job is to do is to basically see, well, physically, can you do that? Is there any limitation either in your mobility, in your strength, your control or your balance, that's going to make it hard for you to do what he wants you to do, and then come up with a plan to address that.
My plan for this video, much like the golf lesson, is that I'm going to try and keep the camera running, go through everything that Matt's just spoken about and see what the findings are at the end and hopefully get a sense of how this might apply to yourself. Perfect. Let's get on with it.
Okay, cool. So just as a bit of background, John, firstly, what do you do day to day? What's your normal posture? What are you doing? Are you desk, in a car, up and about?
Yeah, so I work a desk job. I've been suffering on and off for a little while with lower back pain, so I've tried to go to the stand-up desk.
Good.
But yeah, drive in, obviously commute to work, sit at the desk, or even if I'm doing the editing on these videos, that could be 20 to 30 hours of sort of at a table.
And apart from your tight, sore lower back, any other significant injury history?
No, there's no major injuries. It's just a sort of periodic, and at the moment it's a little bit tight lower back and sometimes up here, which I sort of put down
your daily posture stuff.
Posture.
And what about exercise-wise? I mean, what are you doing exercise-wise each week?
Just trying to get back into more consistent exercise, looking at sort of your HIIT classes and things like that. I've been doing golf. I did a period of golf-specific training. I had a break over Christmas and want to get back into it now. So just looking at sort of general fitness type of things.
Cool. And that sort of stuff's important because our bodies are always changing and they're influenced heavily by what we do every day. So, if you sit a lot, it's going to create certain mobility restrictions and even certain weaknesses. Certain, your deep core muscles, for instance, and your deep hip muscles will switch off when you're sitting down all the time. And they don't magically switch back on. So what you do every day can impact how your body functions and moves. And so a lot of the exercise programs we look at is often looking at just correcting and reversing some of those things that happen every day in everyday life if you're stuck at a desk or stuck in the car and so forth. So that's really good background information to know.
Okay, perfect.
Right, have a stand up there facing forward, and the first thing I want to do is just see how your body lines up just in standing, and that's going to give me a bit of an idea of a few different things. And I'm just going to sort of feel around your pelvis and your hips and see how they line up, and it feels to me like if I try and work out where that pelvis is sitting, that you might be just a little bit twisted to the left through your pelvis. Okay, so sort of facing off to the left just a little bit. That can sometimes be just a muscle imbalance, or it's not anything necessarily a major finding. All right, and I just want to now have a look at how you move. So the first thing is I want you to bend forward, touch your toes, see what you got, or go as close as you can. I just want to see how your back moves, okay. Now hands on your hips, leaning backwards.
Oh, sorry.
My bad, leaning backwards. How does that feel?
Good. This is the sort of the tightness at the moment. I feel like,
and it's not moving great. Like you don't have great extension through your lower back. Okay. Arms by your side now, and I want you to slide your right arm straight down the outside of your right leg as far as you can. Try and keep your legs straight. Don't let that leg buckle in. Okay. Just go straight to the side. So we want to limit that movement just to your back and make sure you stay nice and square. Okay. So just past your knee joint there. Let's go to the left. Same deal. It's a similar range of motion. How does it feel to you?
I'm always a little bit more protective of this side.
Left side. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now the next thing I want to look at is I'm just going to see how you control around your pelvis and your hips.
Yep.
So I want you to stand on your left leg and bend your right knee up towards your chest like you're marching on the spot. Just bend it up. Good. And down. And then do the same on the other side. Okay, cool. That looks like it's moving okay. All right, next thing I want to do is look at your rotation through your upper back. So if you sit on the bed there for me and just face the wall and pop your arms across your chest. Yep, and I'm going to get you to turn to the right, turn your whole body to the right. Okay, so for someone who sits at a desk, that's not too bad. Okay. I'd say that's probably, 80 to 90% of what we'd like to see, which is good. And then turning left. Okay, and you can probably feel that, but it doesn't move as well to the left as it did to the right. Yeah. So that's only probably about 50% of where you should be. Okay, now obviously rotation is really important for golfers. So if you're not don't have good rotation mobility, sometimes your body needs to sort of try and find it elsewhere. That's when you can get injuries, because if your upper back's not rotating like it should and it forces the pressure into your lower back, your lower back's not designed to rotate. So if now can't rotate in your upper back where you're meant to, but you're trying to make your lower back rotate, that can sometimes lead to some injuries. Okay. Yeah. Right, now I want to also look at your upper back extension. Okay, so if you pop your hands behind your head for me, elbows forward. Good, and I'm just going to block off there. And again, for someone who sits at a desk, that's actually not too bad. I'd like to see those elbows go up a little bit higher, so you've got a little bit of a restriction there, but that's not too bad. I want to look at what's happening around your hip joints. All right, so if I bend your leg up here, okay, so if this is 0 degrees movement at your hip, if I rotate you this way, which is what we call internal rotation, we'd like to see that coming out to 40, 45 degrees. And you've probably got maybe 20 degrees there. Okay. You can feel that sort of blocks into your pelvis. Yeah, for sure, okay. If we go the other way, into what we call external rotation, I'd like to see somewhere around 70 or 80 degrees, and you're pretty close there, so that's okay. I'm happy with that, all right? If we look at how your hip flexes up, okay, so I want to make sure that your pelvis doesn't move. Now, again, I should be able to get that knee pretty close to your chest, but certainly up around 120 degrees, and just past 90 degrees, it blocks off, and I can't go any further without rolling your whole back. Yeah. Okay, so that hip joint not moving as well as we could, Now that internal rotation, lack of internal rotation can impact your backswing, because as you rotate into your backswing and your pelvis has to rotate over your leg, that hip needs to move into internal rotation. So if you've lost mobility there and you wind that up pretty quickly, it just makes it hard for you to load properly into that right side in your backswing. If you look at this side, and you can feel that one goes a lot further. Yeah, that's nice, okay? Coming this way, now, interestingly, this one's limited in external, so it doesn't quite get to 45 degrees. Okay, so this way is quite good, but going that way is a bit limited. Yeah. Now, that may be related to some strength imbalances around your hip, which we'll look at in a sec, but definitely that right hip, that internal rotation is going to make it hard for you to wind up and load properly in your backswing. All right, we're going to look at your shoulders. So if I look at this right shoulder, and that right shoulder moves beautifully, which again, for someone who sits at a desk a lot, it's a pretty good effort. Thank you. Benefit of youth, I guess. Only just. Side. And again, that's pretty good there. Now, the other thing I like to look at is how your shoulder blades sit just in line there. So if you put your arms on the bed beside you, if I come and look at you from behind, now I can see here that your right shoulder is sitting further forward than your left. Okay? So if I slide my hand under the back of your shoulder, I slide under your left one, my hand stops there. And if I go under your right one, you'll feel that my hand goes down a lot lower behind your right shoulder blade. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so there's a good, looking at it from the back here, it looks like it's sitting up a good 2 or 3 centimetres. And now what that means, I think that's a postural thing. If you think about, on a computer, using your right hand to drive a car, computer, mouse, phone, this shoulder sits forward a lot, right? Yeah. So for a golfer, if you're in your setup position and your right shoulder wants to sit forward, that can sometimes create some of those setup issues that Brent identified, where you get a bit this way, because that shoulder's sitting forward. Yeah. But also it makes it really hard for your right arm to function properly in the backswing, because the shoulder sits forward like this. Even though you've got good range of motion in your shoulder joint, if your shoulder blade's sitting forward, the platform that right arm is working off is not stable, it's not sitting in the right position, so it's hard for it to work properly. Going to get you to stand up for me, and I want to have a look at your the length through your big lat muscle. So to do that, we're going to get you on the wall here. In this position, I want you to flatten your back into the wall, spine flat on the wall, arms out in front, and just raise straight up, keeping your back nice and flat, and keeping your arms lined up like that. I don't want your arms to drift apart. Now raise up slowly. And you're starting to get some resistance there. doesn't want to go much further than that without losing it like this.
No.
Okay.
It's hard to keep my lower back on the wall as well.
So that's a little bit of a core control issue down there, maybe some tightness.
Yeah.
But also too, your lats aren't letting your arms go up.
Yeah.
Now for a golfer, again, in your backswing, as you wind up, you need to be able to lengthen through that left lat and be able to get your arms up in the right position. If they're tight, it might cause some compensations because you can't get there easily.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few mobility restrictions that are going to make life hard for you. Right, mate, so this is called a dynamometer, and we use this to measure force. So it gives us an idea of the strength of different muscle groups. It tells me the maximum force that you push with. So I want to measure the relative strength of the rotator muscles around your shoulder, and then 5 of the different muscle groups around your hips. And what I'm looking for is the balance side to side on your body, to right to left, but also within the different joints. Okay, because I have this concept about what I call the power of neutral, meaning that your body functions best in a neutral position. So if you're really shifted in one direction or one joint can't move a certain way, then you're not in a neutral position, and that makes it harder for you to move well. All right, so the first one we're going to measure is rotating back that way, okay? And the other thing I should mention too is that for a right-handed golfer, or for everybody in general, we want a fairly symmetrical measure here, right? But in actual fact, for a right-handed golfer, I want to see the left side a little bit stronger than the right. Because in a golf swing, everything's moving, you know, if you're a right-hander and you're swinging this way, all the force really is going left.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to control what's happening that way. So golfers are more likely to get left-sided elbow and wrist problems if you're a right-hander, even left-sided low back pain sometimes. And certainly if you can't control the force going that way, then you're not going to be very stable. And before I talked about, you know, stability and being stable. So if you can't control that force going that way, it's going to be hard to shift your pressure left and really work through the ball aggressively. So even, you know, though we say to most people we want you to be symmetrical, really for a golfer, I'd like to see the left side a little bit stronger than the right.
Okay.
Okay? You ready?
Yeah.
Go. Push, 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 push. You ready?
Yeah.
Go. Nice. So that was pretty good. Strength-wise, you're pretty good there. In actual fact, pretty equal, and if anything, maybe a little bit stronger on the left side, so that was good. Right, so now we're going to look at your hip muscles. Go.
This is more tiring than it looks.
Well, we're going for max efforts, right? So it is a bit of a workout, but it's the only way we're really going to find out where your strengths and weaknesses are. Go. Okay, so now I need you to lay up here on your right side for me, please. The first one we're going to do here is just lifting your legs straight up. So what we call abduction. And go. Okay, so now while you're laying there, I want you to put your right leg, bend it up on there. We're going to measure the muscles in your groin on the inside of your thigh. Go. Okay, how you going there? You with us?
Yeah.
All right, so we got one more hip muscle to do. This time we're gonna measure hip extension, which is the big muscle in the back of your hip. Go, lift. Come on, lift, 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 lift. Could you feel the difference side to side there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were significantly stronger in that last one on your right side.
Yeah, it felt noticeably different.
Yeah, massively. So based on that first group of tests that we did, there is definitely a weakness on that left side. So the muscles that rotate your hips, they were pretty good. They were a little bit stronger on the right than the left, but generally the absolute strength there was quite good. The muscles that where you go side to side were overall, I thought, were quite weak for someone, or especially relative to the hip rotation strength, were quite weak. And in particular, the left adductor muscles, the left groin muscles. And then the other thing that was, the other area that was really noticeably weak was your left hip extension. So the hip extension is that really big glute max muscle predominantly, and that's a muscle that creates a lot of stability. Okay, so as you're shifting left in a golf swing and the force is going into the ground, that's where you're getting a lot of your stability from, and certainly your ability to react to that force and push out of the ground is dictated a lot by that left glute max, and that was significantly weaker than the other side. So the combination of the left adductor, the groin, and the left glute max, or that hip extension muscles, that's going to make it hard for you to shift your weight across and then stay there and be stable as you rotate through. So there's definitely a strength deficit, that would make it hard for what Brent wants you to do, and especially as you go to longer clubs where you're moving faster, or as you're getting tired or under a bit of pressure if you're trying to shoot a good score or having a good round and you want to keep it going, it's going to make it harder and harder for you to move how he wants you to move. I want to have a look at now what I call control tests. So it's basically how you control movement. Okay. So the first one is a balance test, which I've adapted for golfers. So the first thing I want you to look at is, can you stand in your golf stance on one leg and just hold your balance there? Okay, so we're going to see how you go holding that for about 20 seconds. All right, so arms across your chest. Imagine you're setting up to like a standard iron, like a 7 or a 6 iron. And then just go onto one leg and hold that position. And I want to see if you can hold. You should be able to hold that for 20 seconds. So let's have a look at the other side. And what I'm looking for too is how easily you're holding it. You did that pretty well. You're going to hold that for 20 seconds. Like, I'm not going to learn much more there. So let's have a look at the right side. And again, you look like you're doing that pretty easily. There's not a lot of extra movement happening. It doesn't look like you're working very hard. So let's make it a little bit more difficult. So this time what I want you to do is same start position, but this time while you hold that position, I want you to just turn your shoulders side to side. I want to see if you can rotate side to side 5 times each way, just nice and slowly, keeping control. Okay, not bad. It's obviously a bit more difficult test, but you did well.
Yeah,
so let's
wobbling.
Yeah, no, but that was good. Everyone's going to wobble a little bit on that one. So let's do the right side now and see how you go with that. Okay, does that feel a bit easier?
Yeah.
That looked easier. That looked way easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, look like you did that much easier. Yeah.
I'm not loving my left side.
No, you're not loving your left side at all. All right, so but we're going to go one more level on this test. So this time we're going to go arms out wide and do the same thing, but I want you to think about keeping the width from the tip of your little finger to your tip of your other little finger really as long as you can, okay? So I want you to feel like you turn your body and don't just swing your arms around, okay? Left side first in that golf stance. See if you can go 5 each way. Okay, now we're just about at the limit now. Okay, good job there. You got through it, but you can see you're working pretty hard there.
It's harder. I'm kind of concentrate more for sure.
Yeah, okay, and let's have a look at the right side, same deal. So you're able to save it, which is good, but what I'm really looking for, especially in someone who wants to improve their golf and get better and get down to low figures, is to be really stable through their leg and just their body just rotates easily above it, okay?
Yeah.
Next test we're going to look at is a single leg squat. It's a great basic athletic test to do because when you're on one leg, gravity's trying to pull you over, and then we want to see, can you control your body alignment and just go up and down into a squat. I don't know how they felt to you. To me, it looked like, again, you had a little bit of trouble controlling that left side. Your hip wanted to drop out to the left a little bit. You weren't quite as good at keeping your alignment through your body.
Yeah.
How did it feel to you, left to right?
Fairly similar. My right knee was making some weird, tiny noise.
Okay,
but
that's
otherwise,
Father Time, but that's okay.
Yeah. It does, it feels a little bit easier on the right, a little bit more.
Cool, okay.
I feel like I could get a little bit lower as well, actually.
Yeah, so a little bit better. And then the last test I want to look at in standing is just how you're able to control around your pelvis and your low back in your golf stance, okay? So the first one is in standing, and I want to look at, can you tilt your pelvis under and back like that, okay? Okay, so as you do that, and you can probably feel it, is that when you try and roll your pelvis under, there's a real shaking and it looks like it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And then it just pops back really easily the other way.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what I often see in people who tend to grip too much through their back muscles.
Yeah.
And so you're finding stability by really arching your back and gripping into your back, and that probably ties into that stiffness in your low back. But also too, the problem there is that when you start to really engage those muscles and switch those muscles on, they run from your pelvis all the way up to your rib cage. And so if you're engaging those muscles and using them to try and create stability, they lock your pelvis and your rib cage together, so it makes it hard to turn.
Okay.
And it creates a lot of pressure through your lower back. So we certainly don't want to see that pattern where you've got your back really arched. We want you to be able to move in and out of that position and get into a more neutral position.
Yeah.
So that definitely shows me that your dominance is towards using those bigger back muscles to try and hold you there and not be able to sort of move independently and find a more neutral position, okay?
Yep.
Then the other one I want to look at is in standing again, same position, golf stance, but can you keep your shoulders still and rotate your pelvis, okay? So your knees only move because your hips are moving or your pelvis is moving, The movement's actually driven by your core muscles, so it's not using my knees to do it, but just start slow, and I want to see if you can actually get a rotary motion happening through your hips, keeping that shoulder still, or shoulders still.
I'm going to guess no.
Well, you never know. I would guess no, but let's see. Yeah, so what you've got, again, a really common pattern, especially in people who grip through their back, where you're going side to side quite a bit, there's not a lot of rotation happening there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more grippy through the back, side to side. That usually means that you're not using your oblique abdominal muscles as well as you could, and your bigger abdominal muscles that rotate you, and that your brain wants to use those back muscles. And again, that would explain a tight lower back, because it'll compress your lumbar spine quite a bit. All right, so the first test, it's called what I call a rotary stability test, and it's just looking at how well you control rotation forces around your spine. So what we're going to get you to do is on your hands and knees here, set up so that your hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips, and you're just going to go opposite arm and leg out, come back in, hand to knee, back out and down. Now, because your leg weighs a lot more than your arm, as you lift them up, gravity's going to try and twist you around. So I want to look at how stable you can keep your spine while you do that. And then the other one I want to do is, and this is a bit of a funky one, so you're going to have to trust me on this one. So I want to see if you can roll over. And what I want you to do is, if you lay on your back, so we go right hand up, left hand behind your head.
Yeah.
Now I want you to roll over, but you can't use your legs, you can't use momentum, you can't flick your hips. It's from the top down. So you start with your elbow, then your eyes go, and you just slowly roll over like that. Okay? Let's see what you got. Told you it's going to be funky.
I don't back myself to be able to do it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Start with your elbow going across, then your head comes up and your eyes follow it. And, could you feel the flick of the hips and the lift of the legs? Yeah, you had to lift your legs and flick your hips to get over. All right, see how you lifted your legs up again?
Yeah.
And so I think what this test shows us is if you have really good control of your deep posture system and the muscles that control that sort of individual movement through your spine, then you can control that rotation quite easily, and you don't need to use your legs and other things. If you're more reliant on your bigger muscles or your back muscles for your stability, then they really can't roll you over. So you're going to start trying to find other things to do it and cheat, and that's when you get in trouble. So I really like it, because it's a bit weird, but it's a good little test to see how good you are at using those deeper muscles. And we talked earlier about there's some things we can look at short term, which are what's happening in your golf swing now, things that we can do to try and have that, not quick fix, but address those immediate concerns. Yeah. A bit more bigger picture, you with your tight lower back, I think you've got some issues with how you control around your lower back in your pelvis. And that's probably predisposing you to some of these issues, and they're only going to get worse with time unless you change something. Cool? Yeah. All right, one more test I want to do. It's one more strength test. It's a side hold test, which is basically measuring the strength of your lateral trunk muscles. Again, I find this a really good test because it looks at your ability, or looks at the muscles that are going to help maintain your lateral stability through your trunk. I find that your strength in these tests correlates quite a lot to your risk of back pain, and people who I see who have a lot of imbalances in this test side to side or are weak in it generally get low back symptoms and have back problems. All right, mate, when you're ready, go. Awesome. Almost 2 minutes. Minute 54.
Yeah, okay.
Brilliant. Have a little rest and then we're going to do the other side, okay? You've done over 2 minutes here, so I'm happy for you to stop there. That was good. Well done. The last thing I want to look at with you is your setup posture, and less so from the perspective of the golf coach who was looking at some of the alignment stuff and how that impacts your golf swing, but more around what muscles you're activating and how you're holding yourself in that position. Yeah. And I guess the easiest way to explain it is that your posture or your alignment, whatever you want to call it, is the platform that all your movement starts from. And if you start in a good position with the right muscles engaged, it makes it a lot easier to move well. If you start in a position where you've got the wrong or the less than optimal muscles engaged, or your alignment's not quite where we want it to be, it just makes it harder to move well, because then you've got to start making compensations straight away. Pretend it's a normal length club. Take your setup You can think about what Brent had you working on, which would be great. So we want to get that. And I'm just going to see how things, really look at how you're activating what's going on. And straight away, and this, you know, I sort of thought we'd find this from some of the tests, is that you're really loaded through your back here.
Yeah.
Okay, so these big muscles here that run down your spine, if I feel them there, they're like two metal rods running down your back. Now that's going to really jam your back up and make it hard for you to rotate well. So ideally what we'd like to see is, and even, you know, looking at it from the side there, we can see that you've got, you know, the TPI guys call it the S posture. You can call it an anterior pelvic tilt. There's lots of different things to call it, but basically that arch in your lower back is probably a little bit more than I'd like to see. And more importantly, the back muscles here are really gripping and engaged quite a lot, okay?
Yep.
So to be in a more neutral position, which is going to help you move better, what I'd like to see is that you're a little bit more, you know, tucked under through your pelvis. So, and rather than sort of getting in your posture then trying to work that out, I often say to people it's better to do it in standing, find that neutral position and then bend forward from there so that those back muscles aren't as engaged and you're going to feel a little bit more engaged through your core, okay?
Yeah.
So, and you can incorporate this into what you do with Brent, with your setup drills and so forth, but just having that better awareness of what muscles are actually engaged and are going to drive the movement.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you stand there, what I want you to do is think about, you know, if you were to roll your hips as far under as you can. So imagine you've got like a tail and you're tucking the tail under.
Yeah.
And then you're going to stick it back the other way as far as you can. And now come under again about halfway. Okay. So, and let's get you to keep coming a little bit further. Good, to there. So now you're in a more neutral position.
Yeah.
Now I want you to hold that little engagement in your core here while you bend forward into your posture, okay?
Yeah.
So don't lose it and try and feel like you're a little bit more tucked under there, and that's going to soften off that back.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something you're going to have to practice because that's going to be your habit. When you get there, it probably feels strong to arch your back, but it doesn't let you rotate and move well in your swing. Okay, so after we've done all those tests, I think the main findings are, from the mobility testing, you were a little bit limited in that left rotation through your upper body, but also that right hip wasn't moving very well. Now, I actually think that's probably because we found that your left hip was weaker and you are most likely to subconsciously spend more time on that right side because it's stronger.
Yeah. Because
you're loading that hip more, it tightens up. So I think that'll probably take care of itself once we get this left hip doing a better job with the strength, okay? And coming to that, we found that the adductor muscles in here, your groin muscles and your left hip extensor muscles were really weak. And that's going to make it super difficult for you to shift onto that left side and be stable there, okay?
Yeah.
When we did the test looking at your balance, your single leg squat, you know, you said you felt more stable on the right side, the left side was a little bit more wobbly, which fits in with that. And then I think the other main finding from this assessment was that your control around your pelvis wasn't great. You tend to lock into your back quite a bit and overuse your back muscles.
Yep.
And we saw that in your setup posture where you really wanted to grip through your back. And so they're going to go together. That's probably one of the reasons why you're getting that low back pain on the left side. And so we need to teach you how to use your core muscles and your abdominal muscles better. And then that should help bleed into what you're doing in your setup. And then from there, it's going to be easier to move in your golf swing. Okay?
Perfect.
Cool. All right. So first couple of things we're going to do are going to be on the ground. And these are going to be around looking at improving your control through your around your pelvis. So not using your back as much, using your core muscles. All right, so the first one we're going to get you to do, I'm going to get you to lay on your back.
Yep.
And have your legs bent up so your feet are resting flat on the ground, okay? And so the first thing is teaching you how to sort of let go of those back muscles and not grip through your back quite so much. So I'm going to get you to roll your pelvis under, and I want you to imagine that you're peeling your spine up off the ground one vertebra at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to roll it up so your tailbone should lift up and then even into your lower back and then roll it down one at a time. So we're teaching you some segmental control through your spine, less reliance on that gripping through your lower back and actually using those core muscles better. So the next one we're going to do is going to really challenge those deep posture muscles and some of those deeper abdominal muscles to hold that posture, okay? This is rapidly becoming one of my favorite exercises. It's called baby rocking. So I'll demonstrate first. So I'm going to give you this yoga block, but you can use a roller, you can use a footy, a soccer ball, just something that you put between your knees, right? So you're going to lay on your back, pop it between your knees, and then I want you to imagine that you're hugging a beach ball and your legs are up in the air like this. and my tailbone's actually just off the ground a little bit. Now the goal of the exercise is to keep everything lined up and slowly rock side to side. So you're going to rock onto your hip and shoulder, rock onto the other hip and shoulder, and you control it the whole time. So I'm keeping my legs up, keeping my back flat on the ground, so I've engaged my core muscles, and just trying to control that slow rocking side to side. So for a first effort, that's not too bad, but you can see it gets a bit shaky.
It's difficult, yeah.
Yeah, and you lose it, and you can see you're working really hard through here. So it looks like a fairly easy one, but it's a great challenge for those core muscles. And you can sort of see just as you get onto your hip and shoulder, you start to lose it a little bit. So you're losing that control. Very good. Okay, the next one we're going to do down here on the ground as well is again looking at some of that control around your pelvis, but also bringing in some challenge for your hip muscles as well. Yep. So again, having something between your knees, soccer ball, yoga block, foam roller, just something like that. You're going to lay back here, nice squeeze into it, and then keep, again, thinking about that position where you sort of roll your pelvis under and lift up a little bit, so you're not arching your back, but you've got your core muscles engaged. Yeah. And then I want you to keep your hips level, and you're just going to straighten out one leg at a time. So you're going to lift your hips up a little bit, and again, you want to think about using your core muscles, and you push through your feet to lift your hips off the ground a little bit higher. Good. So we want engagement through your glute muscles and your abdominal muscles, and now you're going to keep everything level, straighten out one leg. Keep that foot flat and down, and then other side. And you can feel the twist. Yeah. Okay, so we're really challenging your ability to stabilize through your pelvis. When you lift one leg out, gravity's trying to pull you down. You should be able to control that pretty easily. But you can see when you go lift this right leg, there's a big shift in your pelvis, and you've got to shift across that way quite a bit. That comes back to that left side stability in your downswing. A lot of these exercises for the golfers, I liken it to checking your grip and your alignment. Okay, it's the boring stuff. It's not the fun, sexy stuff. Yeah. But like your grip and your alignment and your setup posture, if you don't get that right, it makes lots of other things really hard to work well. All right, so this next exercise is going to focus on some control around that left hip and pelvis. And it's going to be really good for your golf swing because it mimics in a way the way your pelvis works around your leg in the swing. But we're going to make sure you're doing it with the right muscles, okay? Ideally, you have just something behind you, like a little step or something to rest your back foot on. I'm going to stand here. My back foot is just resting there for balance. I can lift it up if I need to. I'm over my front foot. I'm not sort of leaning back on that back foot at all. So I'm over my front foot, hands on my hips. I think about that pelvic position, so you're not arching your back, you're tucked under a little bit. And what I want you to do here is, I just want you to rotate your pelvis around that leg. Nice neutral position here, so you just want to tuck your pelvis under just a little bit more. Other way, that's it, good, yep. So now, think about rotating. So you want to keep this knee lined up over the foot, and you're just going to rotate. Rotate down first. So rotate your right fingers down this way, and you should feel a load into this left hip. Yep. Good. And then you're going to rotate back up and around. Good. And I'm just going to get you to come back down, and I just want to straighten this knee a little bit. Just straighten it up that way a bit, and just feel like you're over it, which will load this more. So you should really feel that left hip loading. Push through the ground and rotate the other way. Okay, nice. All right, and then let's have a look at the other side. Good, so nice and tall, bend forward over that front hip. Tuck your hips under a little bit, yep. Same deal. So you're going to rotate down first. You feel like you stretch into the back of that right hip and load it. I'm just going to give you one more to do, and I'm really mindful when I work with people too, is that, look, I've got 1,000 things running through my head that I want to give you to do. Yeah. But we can't get ahead of ourselves, and we've got to address some of the low-hanging fruit first and get the basics and get you in, more importantly too, into a good routine of doing this stuff. And then we can, going forward, we can look at, well, what other things do you want to work on? Do you want a gym program? Do you want to do other things? But just get you started with these and get you into that routine. Yeah. Okay. And I think these are good because it's going to help address that tightness in your low back, but it's also going to help you with specifically with what Brent got you to work on. Okay. Then the last one I'm going to give you to do is, and I've got to give you like a real golfy one, right? Like that's but the other thing too is, like, golf fitness doesn't mean making exercise look like a golf swing either. Okay. Okay. And I see that a lot. If you watch some of the stuff on social media, it seems like if you just make it look like a golf swing, it's golf fitness. Well, not necessarily. We're trying to make people move better to help their golf swing, but it doesn't mean you need to make every exercise look like a golf swing.
Golf swing, yeah.
Yep. So the last one, now I've got like a really expensive, extravagant piece of equipment here. It's just a pool noodle, right? So a pool noodle that I've cut up. And this is going to be great for challenging your balance a little bit and your control and helping you get the muscles around your hips again and your pelvis working better. So if I'm going to get you to stand here, you can hold, again, just something, a yoga block, a football, a soccer ball, something. Most of your weight on that front leg. Again, you've got to think about that nice neutral pelvis. And what I want you to do is turn your body, press this out, come back in and go back. So turn, press, back in, back. Make sure your core's on, you're not gripping through your back, so you want to tuck that pelvis under a little bit, good. Now, most of the weight through that front leg, you're going to turn right, press it out in front, come back, go again.
Everything's so much harder than it looks.
Yep. But the beauty of this will be, and this is the whole idea of it, is that when you're obviously not going to play golf standing on a pool noodle or make these movements on flat ground so much easier.
So train hard, play easy.
Yeah. Okay, and now just out of interest, if you just go now foot on the ground and do the same thing, and now it feels easier,
yeah,
lighter,
yeah,
things just
work
move better,
yeah,
and you probably find your range of motion gets a bit better as well because we've forced you to move more efficiently,
yeah,
by having your foot on the pool noodle, which is unstable, and now everything's working more efficiently. So that's your homework.
Okay, good.
And the important thing is that consistency.
Yeah.
So you got to do it. You know, I say to people, it's a bit like a diet. You want to try and be good with it every day. If you miss a day, it's not the end of the world, but you know that you only get the results if you're consistent with it.
And is it do it for a certain, go through the routine?
Yeah, so you do the stuff on the ground and do 2 or 3 circuits through there on the ground,
yep,
and then the ones in standing the same, 2 or 3 circuits.
Yeah.
You know, the goal with a lot of these is to get better at them. So in actual fact, there's no real secret sets and reps. There's no magic number.
Yeah.
It's getting better at them. You know, none of these were necessarily high intensity where you need to stop after 3 sets of 8 and have a rest for 3 days.
Yeah.
Like you might with a heavy gym session. This is more about improving your control of movement. And I think some of those minor little mobility issues that we saw, they're probably going to clear up once you get better control and move better. You're not going to worry about having to stretch and foam roll and do those types of things, which can be a little bit non-productive. You get stronger and better control, you move more efficiently, you'll get your range of motion back.
All right, so I've just finished my session with Matt. Went really well, shown some imbalances that I need to work on, but it's great to see how the physio bit connects with the coach, and Brent Dale in my case, I had the lesson with a few weeks ago. And then my general health can be doing things that are going to translate to helping me with my back problems, but also obviously helping me with my golf swing and doing the things that Brent wants me to do. You can tell why Matt's so sought after by players, and he was at the Masters, the Open, he's at tour events. He's really working with the best golfers. I'm going to put some links to him below, so his website link and his social medias, and you can follow him or contact him directly if this type of stuff interests you. He does also work with a lot of golfers of all abilities. So if you're in Sydney, you can come and see him, but he does a lot online. So he's working with players all over the world at all different levels and ages and things like that. So if there's a type of thing that interests you, don't ask me, ask Matt, get in touch with him. Hopefully you're enjoying this, my journey back to trying to get back to good golf. I'll post more videos like this along with everything else that I do. If it's the type of thing that interests you, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll hope to see you in another video soon.